Imagine a world without Russia, the vast land stretching across Eastern Europe and Northern Asia. The sheer size and influence of Russia have played crucial roles in shaping global politics, culture, and history. This creative exploration delves into the hypothetical scenario of a world without Russia and examines the potential impacts on major global powers such as the USA, China, and Britain. We will also consider the alternate courses of World War I, World War II, and the current Russia-Ukraine conflict. Furthermore, we will visualize how the global map and the distribution of companies might look in this alternate reality. Without Russia, the vast territory it occupies would be a blank canvas, possibly divided among neighboring countries or forming entirely new nations. Eastern Europe might see Poland, the Baltic states, and Finland expanding eastward. The Asian part of Russia could be carved into several new countries, possibly influenced by Chinese and Japanese interests. The absence of a dominant power in this region would significantly alter the geopolitical balance. Imagine Siberia as the new Las Vegas, cold, but with fantastic casinos run by polar bears in tuxedos. Finland could annex chunks of Eastern Europe and create the world's most efficient sauna network. The new Central Asian countries might turn into bustling tech hubs where camels deliver your Amazon packages, on time, every time. The USA's role as a global superpower might evolve differently without Russia as a rival. The Cold War, which defined much of the 20th century, would have been fundamentally altered or perhaps never occurred. The US might have directed its attention towards other emerging threats or focused more on internal development and regional issues in the Americas. Without Russia, the USA would have missed out on the thrill of the space race. We might have settled for a space jog, launching paper planes into orbit and declaring victory when they didn't crash. China would likely become the dominant power in Asia more rapidly without Russia as a buffer. Chinese influence could extend into Siberia and Central Asia, regions rich in natural resources. This expansion might lead to increased tensions with other Asian nations, reshaping alliances and conflicts. Picture China setting up panda reserves across Siberia, transforming the frozen tundra into a cuddly bear paradise. The Great Wall would be extended to keep out rogue snowmen. Without the Russian threat during the 19th and early 20th centuries, the British Empire might have focused more on consolidating its colonies in Asia and Africa. The Great Game in Central Asia, a rivalry between Britain and Russia, would never have occurred, possibly leading to a different colonial landscape. The Brits would have likely dominated the tea trade entirely, creating an empire fueled by Earl Grey and biscuits. The sun would never set on the empire, but it would occasionally take a tea break. Without Russia, the eastern front of World War I would be non-existent. The Central Powers, primarily Germany and Austria-Hungary, would have concentrated their efforts on the Western Front, possibly overwhelming France and Britain more quickly. The absence of the Russian Revolution would mean no Bolshevik rise to power, potentially avoiding the spread of communism. Picture Kaiser Wilhelm and his generals playing an endless game of Risk in a Berlin basement, strategizing over Europe without worrying about the Russian roulette part. The lack of Russia would dramatically change the dynamics of World War II. Without the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany would not face the massive Eastern Front, potentially focusing all its might on Western Europe. This could lead to an earlier defeat of the Allies, or alternatively, the Allies might have consolidated their forces more effectively without worrying about Soviet intentions. The Holocaust and other atrocities might have played out differently, with no Eastern European Jewish populations to target. Hitler, with no Eastern Front to stress about, might have ended up directing musicals in Berlin rather than waging war. Imagine Mein Kampf, the musical with chorus lines of goose-stepping soldiers. In the absence of Russia, the current Russia-Ukraine conflict would be non-existent. Ukraine might have developed as a more stable and prosperous nation without the historical baggage and geopolitical pressures from its giant neighbor. The entire region of Eastern Europe could be more stable and integrated into the European Union and NATO without Russian interference. Kiev could have become the Silicon Valley of Europe, where every startup is guaranteed funding and babushkas teach coding in local cafes over bowls of borscht. The global map would look strikingly different. New countries might emerge in Siberia and Central Asia, potentially rich in natural resources. Eastern Europe might see significant territorial changes, with countries like Poland and Finland having expanded borders. Asia would have a more pronounced Chinese influence, with potential conflicts and alliances reshaping the continent. Picture a map where new nations like Siberia Snowland and Central Asian Siberia are tourist hotspots, complete with ice hotels and tech expos. Major companies that rely on Russian resources such as Gazprom and Rosneft would not exist. Instead, other global players might dominate the energy sector, potentially from the Middle East, the USA, or China. Tech and manufacturing hubs might emerge in new regions, leveraging the untapped resources and strategic locations of the newly formed countries in former Russian territories. Siberian startups would revolutionize cold weather gear, making thermal onesies the new global fashion trend. Central Asian nations might become leaders in green energy, with solar-powered yurts popping up worldwide. A world without Russia presents a fascinating alternate reality, with significant implications for global history, politics, and economics. The absence of this vast and influential nation would lead to different outcomes in major conflicts, reshape the balance of power among global superpowers, and create a dramatically different world map. While this creative exploration provides a glimpse into a hypothetical scenario, it underscores the profound impact that Russia has had on shaping the modern world.